You're listening to MMA Think Tank with Jay and Mike.
All right, Mike, we are back. How do you feel this week after this great night of fights last night?
Oh, good night of fights, great night of fights. I had kind of a back problem earlier this week, so I was kind of bummed out about that. But, these fights took me out of my pain for the rest of this week. So, I love the fights.
Yeah, especially the last two fights last night were pretty good. Let's get into it. Let's talk about Hall versus Brunson.
Yeah, I wasn't sure who was going to win this fight, Jay. I went with Hall simply because I thought his back was against the wall, losing two in a row. But Brunson, seriously, of course, he's now on a 5-fight win streak, 4 first-round KO TKOs. I guess the talk right now is a controversial stoppage. In round one, I think though that Hall was KO, but maybe a flash KO. Look, Herb Dean was right there on top of it. I think he was done. I think that Brunson finished him there in the first with that punch. What did you think?
Well, I think in cases like this, you have to side with the judge, with his decision on that, with the ref. I mean, you have to side with him because he's the guy in there that's going to make sure the guys stay safe. And it was his call. He made the call. Like you said, he was right on top of things. Herb knows what he's doing. He's been in the game for many years. I trust his decision there. So with him stopping the fight when he did, I was fine with it. I wasn't all up in arms about it, so I don't understand why people were,
I didn't notice it live, but when they showed the replay, and I don't mean the replay slowed down, because I think that's sometimes a disservice to the sport. Also, you've always heard me talk about this, at least Jay has, in football, slowing down of real time in replays. But when they showed it again in real time, and they showed that Hall was kind of grabbing on to Herb's leg, and then got up and kind of like shook his head like he was fine, which in effect I guess he was fine, but where was he fine? Right after he was stopped? And then, because look, if no more punches are coming, you might feel fine. But that's why I think it was probably a flash knockout at the time, and that's why with the position that Hall was in, with Brunson on top of him, Herb saved him from some extra punishment.
Yeah.
And I just want to say real quick too, something I wrote right after that fight is I think that Brunson is more a top 5 guy now than a top 10. When you really look at the top 10 where he was coming in, I think he does good work against the top 5. I think he has no problem with the last part of the top 10.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, Mike. But going back to what you said with the stoppage there and him grabbing onto Herb's leg, yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that because he did. And that tells you right there that he was disoriented. And when he did get up and walk around that cage, he was stumbling around. He didn't look like he was sure-footed at all. I mean, that's the way I saw it. So to say that he was, totally clear-headed and it could have went on, I don't know about that.
Yeah, he was angry, and I understand, understandably so. Obviously, he just lost a big fight to another top 10 guy, and it goes to something that we've talked about in the past, which is Uriah Hall. He wins some, he loses some. He looks great, then he loses a fight against a decision against Whitaker, and like in his fight before this. Now Whitaker is obviously not a bad fighter, don't get me wrong, but I mean this guy I guess now really has had so many chances that. To me, this is his last chance at becoming a contender, a future contender.
Yep.
And I'm not saying that ends his career and I don't want to watch him fight anymore. It's far from it. I think there's a lot of guys that are out there that are never going to fight for the belt that I love to watch. And I think Uriah Hall is one of those guys when he's on.
No, but I'm tired of seeing the 50 Shades of Uriah Hall. I'm tired of seeing all these different looks. We never see the same Uriah Hall. It seems that, actually, we've seen it a couple of times. We've seen the same Uriah Hall where he's come in and really looked, flashy and good and actually all there mentally. Last night, he did not look like that, and he got caught. And, he grabbed onto Herb's leg. That says it all to me. That says he had a flash knockout right there.
I also want to say that this is one of those times, really, that this just shows you that Derek Brunson's just the better fighter than Uriah Hall. It's one of those times that because it was so quick, you know, it wasn't one of those times you could say that your Hall should have done this or whatever you think. No, it was just the speed of Brunson's hands. He's got a better overall game, which he didn't have to show in this fight, I realize. But that fight just kind of tells you the wheat from the tares, you know, with a separation of those two.
Yeah, no, I agree. And one thing I have to say before we close out this fight is the fact that when Brunson was running around at the end of the fight saying he needs a title shot, I was like, sit down, calm down. There's guys ahead of you right now that deserve the title shot a little bit more than you do.
Right, yeah.
So
I hear you. I mean, you look at, you know, the top five, or, you know, the champions, Michael Bisping, Luke Rockhold, Chris Weidman, Jacare Souza. Those guys already, you know, are close, if not ready to go. Then you got Vitor Belfort, Anderson Silva, Robert Whitaker, Gegard Mousasi, who Uriah Hall beat if we're doing MMA math, and then of course Brunson just beat Uriah Hall. So you know, I think Romero. Excuse me, not Romero. I really think he should have lost his last fight to Souza. Souza is the next in line after Bisping and Henderson, who of course we've talked Henderson doesn't deserve, but
yeah. Well, we're all already there. We got to get past that. But anyway, Jacare really deserves the next title shot. Jacare's beat guys like Gegard Mousasi and Vitor Belfort already. I mean, who has Brunson beat? You know. Come on.
Right.
Look at the level of competition there.
He's beat some good guys, some B-level guys, some
Solid.
dangerous guys with knockout power.
Yeah.
But not like the killers that Jacare's been fighting his whole career.
Yeah. But I think outside of Uriah Hall and Sam Alvey, he hasn't really beat anybody.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Guys that are dangerous still with power.
Yeah.
But not the killers that he's fought. And you talk, of course, about we talked about Jacare. Of course, we're going to talk more about him later on in the news corner if you guys haven't heard about it. So
yeah, okay. So let's move on, Mike. Let's go on to the other great fight of the night, and of course, that was Poirier versus Johnson. You and I both thought Dustin Poirier was going to come in here and pretty much win this fight, and it didn't go his way, Mike. Not at all.
Oh yeah, that was the main event for last night for UFC Fight Night 94. And man, what a nice just counter 1-2 in round one for Johnson. I mean, for me, from the get-go, Johnson looked quicker, threw more volume. It looked one of those fights where it continuously, gradually went to, all right, Poirier's going to kind of, get a little quicker now and know that he needs to, like, match speed for speed, but he wasn't doing it. And it was that whole, frog in the boiling pan of water, if you guys know that saying or that tale, where the frog doesn't know he's in water and it's fine. You slowly turn up the heat, and slowly he doesn't know that he's getting boiled alive. And that's exactly, sorry to sound coarse, but that's exactly what happened to Poirier. The speed caught up to him, and he got knocked out. And if I would have known that Poirier was going to fight the way he fought and not try to match him speed for speed, or at least be more in Johnson's face, I would have picked Johnson here. But man, kudos to Johnson. I mean, he breaks Poirier's win streak at 4. And look, man, Johnson had his back against the wall. He had lost 2 in a row. There were split decisions. I know they were against Nate Diaz and Beneil Dariush, but Johnson looked great. He looked great.
Yeah. Well, it shouldn't have been a split against Nate. I think Nate won that fight solidly, and that's just another testament to Nate Diaz's hands, man. That just tells you how good he is. I mean, look how good Johnson looked against Poirier.
And his chin too. I mean, to not get knocked out in the first.
And Poirier he's a slower fighter than Johnson, but my issue with Poirier is why didn't he give Johnson different looks? Why didn't he, maybe even try to shoot? And I know Johnson is a great wrestler, but give him some different looks there. Change it up. You're a little slower than that guy. You have to change it up at that point.
I agree with you, and I think that the reason it didn't happen was just pride, man. I think that Poirier just wanted to show that he could, stand with him for a little bit. And like I said, it slowly got to him. He thought he could hang around and maybe go to the game plan you're talking about, which would have been a better game plan. But he just finally got knocked out without, it came out of nowhere. I mean, I didn't see it coming for sure. I mean, that 1-2 was just a beautiful 1-2, and it knocking him down.
But usually when pride takes over, this is usually what happens, to fighters, to a lot of fighters. Not all the time, but come on. If you're slower than the other guy and Johnson is great on the feet and great, he's got great wrestling. You have to change your game plan up. He didn't do that. Like you said, it seemed that pride took over and he lost. So what's next for Johnson, man?
See, that's what I was going to talk about too, is that, let me first of all say that I'm a big fan of Dustin Poirier. I've met him a couple times, and he's a really good dude. I like his style. I like how he fights. Certainly respect Michael Johnson. Even during his 2 losses, I think he beat Beneil Dariush. It was a really close fight. And I like Beneil Dariush, but all I can say right now, Jay, is that this is one of those things that even though I like Dustin Poirier much better than Michael Johnson, this opens up the division a lot more. We could have had Johnson outside of the top 10, wondering what he's going to do, maybe moving weight classes or something like that. And now we still have Johnson and Poirier looking good in the lightweight division. So, because for me, since the lightweight division has lost Benson Henderson and Anthony Pettis, Cowboy Cerrone, it's still a great division. I just don't think it's as good as the welterweight division. But we still have these names that, they could have a rematch in a couple fights. You just never know. I'm not saying it's warranted, but with the way the lightweight division is, with so many killers still in it, we now got 2 guys that, even though Poirier just lost, he won 4 fights in a row against some stiff competition. So I think Johnson, they can give him a top 5 guy if they want to, but I think they're going to give him another top 10 guy.
You see, I think Johnson should fight somebody like Barboza just to really test him, because Barboza's an animal, especially lately. He's
he beat Barboza. He actually beat Barboza maybe 3 or 4 fights ago.
Yeah, but Barboza seems to be a different animal lately. So
yeah, for sure.
He's a number 4 ranked guy, so I say you give him Barboza again. If not, even a rematch with Nate Diaz would be cool.
Yeah, I actually would like to see that rematch, but I don't think Nate Diaz is having that. He's all, as we know, about the money fights now, and I don't think he's going to want to step down to fight a guy that he may look foolish with the pointing and taunting. But for me, I'm willing to. It's not one of those things that I'm really worried about who Johnson's going to fight next. They'll give him somebody good. I'm excited to see where he goes in the next couple fights, though, for sure. So it's not that I'm poo-pooing him as a fighter. It's just I'm not all up in arms about who he should be fighting right now, but I do want to know what he looks like in a couple fights for sure.
Yeah, I think I'm on board with that only because of the fact that he was sort of dismantled by Nate Diaz, and that kind of took the wind out of his sails for me anyway. In his move up, and I don't know. One thing I will say about last night's fight, though, before we get off of it, is I was kind of upset with Johnson, the way he taunted Poirier on the floor and the way he was going on and on. I just thought there was no need for that. That's just very unsportsmanlike. And I know words were said before the fight, but once you win the fight, hey, you won the fight. Time to calm down.
Yeah, it actually makes you look better that you don't do anything usually, because it just shows not only you are right, but you're the better man in both ways, not just in fighting, but in your demeanor and how you treat people. He did come out and apologize. I didn't read anything outside the headlines. He has apologized. I don't know if he just apologized, in writing, or just actually, tweeted him or called him and talked to him personally. But he did apologize. Johnson's always been one of those guys who, I don't want to use the term hothead because that's not the right term, but he's a very emotional guy. And so it kind of didn't surprise me he acted the way he did, and it also didn't surprise me that he apologized after. So I think he'll probably learn from that experience and hopefully not do that again. And I hope he doesn't either. I think it's one of those things that the sport doesn't need unless you want to be a heel, unless you want to be a bad guy in the sport.
Yeah. All right, Mike, let's go ahead and move on to Bellator 161. Of course, we had Czech Congo versus Tony Johnson. And, man, what a boring fight that was.
This is something that's going on with Czech Congo a lot, and especially with it seems like every other Bellator main event. But just to give a quick recap for people who may not watch Bellator or only watch the UFC, 29-28, 29-28, and 28-28. Majority decision, Czech Congo over Tony Johnson. Really, the takedowns were the difference. Though Johnson, Johnson got Congo's back in round 2. Looks pretty good. But in rounds 1 and 3, Congo got the takedowns and worked him pretty good in the third round. That's what got him the win. I'm thinking, Jay, that the 28-28 but they probably gave a 10-8 round to Johnson for that round 2 for taking the back and control. That's my only guess.
Maybe.
I don't have much to say other than Congo has had almost, it looks about as many fights in Bellator now than he's had it in the UFC. So now at 41, I believe, if he's going to get a title shot, he's got to get it soon. But, man, he just doesn't look like he deserves it the way he fights.
Well, when did he turn into John Fitch?
Right, he's a standing John Fitch, yeah.
It's just with those takedowns, and he was like just laying there at times. It's like, what's going on here? But both of these guys just didn't look very good at all, and I was really bored with this one. I hate to say that about any mixed martial art fight, but this one was. It was boring.
Well, I look at it as Chet Congo now probably, I'll say his age one last time, I guess, but at 41 years old, I think it makes a difference. I know at heavyweight, you can fight a lot longer, your power stays, and there's not as much grappling at heavyweight. But to me, it's not like Randy Couture at heavyweight. It's not like, say, someone, let's just say someone who's getting up there like Josh Barnett or someone who's getting older. Chet Congo just seems to just be mailing it in, phoning it in. He's just throwing some punches, hoping to win the stand-up, and he'll take you down if he can get it. He's, and that's good if he wants to get wins, but it's not good if he wants a title shot or if he wants to keep fans. So with the title, vacant title still out there, maybe going to be contested probably in the beginning of next year. I can see him getting knocked out by a couple of different guys in Bellator, Matt Mitrione being one of them. And if that's the fight they make, simply for namesake, it'd be kind of tough because they'd have 2 ex-UFC fighters going at it for your championship as Bellator. But you look kind of odd, but that's very well what it might be.
Yeah. Now, you remember Chet Congo's fight with Pat Barry?
Yeah, Pat Barry he almost won that fight.
Yeah. Congo, though, he looked like he was about to get knocked out 3 times, and he just got back up, knocked him out. So anything could happen with Congo on the feet. You never know. But, man, like you said, he's pushing that age, and he didn't look good last night.
Well, it's what's funny too, Jay, is he's a physical specimen. I mean, he looks still great at 41 years old still, but he's not putting it together. Like, he's a kickboxer. He used to kickbox. It's not like he was just some guy who, was in the gym and said, yeah, I'll start fighting MMA at age 35. He's been doing this for a while, and that's why it bothers me as a true MMA vet, who I remember seeing back in the UFC around 2007, 2008, thinking that this guy maybe wouldn't win the title, but I thought he was kind of like the next evolution of the sport for heavyweight. Because at that point, most of the heavyweights, they were kind of pudgy, or they were kind of like wrestler types. But, it is what it is, and Congo's, he's getting a paycheck, I think. So.
Yeah. And by the looks of him, you would think that he would be like the heavyweight version of John Jones with the way he looks, Yeah, not necessarily his fight style, but the way he looks.
Yeah, with the legs as well. The legs aren't as muscular, just like Jones is as muscular, but up top, he's a killer.
Yeah. Anyway, let's move on to the other fight we want to talk about there on 161. Of course, the old man himself, Warren gets it done, Mike, against Kakai. And I think I might have went against Warren here just because of the age, and he didn't look good in his last fight, or the last 2, I think. Anyway, but he won here, and he won big. What do you think?
I think you did. You weren't sure, just like I wasn't sure, but I went with Warren simply because of his, that Kakai had fought some okay guys, I guess, but hadn't really fought anybody great. But this was his do or die fight for Warren. He did submit Kakai with a guillotine choke in round 3. Look, Kakai did well defending Warren's takedowns, but Warren's grind and his jumping knees in round 2 and 3, especially the third one. That jumping knee that led to the guillotine choke, that was the difference. Joe Warren looks like the Joe Warren of old there. Now, of course, I'll preface that with he's fighting Serwan Kakai, who I didn't know who that was until he fought Serwan Kakai. So I realized that he's a guy that's not a big guy. So the question is Joe Warren back? Should Warren retire now off of a win? Should he get a title shot? I look at it as Joe Warren wants a title shot. I think, having just lost to Caldwell and then getting a win over, the a fighter like Kakai, I don't think he should get a title shot, but I would give him one more fight. If he wins one more fight, then give him a title shot. Jay, I think you may have a difference of opinion, though.
Yeah, I could see him retiring on top right now. I mean, he won against a guy who isn't necessarily a top 15 guy. I mean, he isn't, but he won, and he won big. He won by a finish here, submission. So I would think that he'd want to retire on top in that regard, because I don't think he's going to win a title shot. I don't think so. And I take it back. He only lost his last fight, and that, of course, was against Darian Caldwell. And Darian Caldwell is a beast. But he won against L.C. Davis before that. And then, of course, lost before that against Galval. But it was Galval.
That's right. Yeah, where he lost his title, yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, he surprised me last night, though. I'll give him that much. So I'm not calling for his head yet. I mean, retirement. I'm not calling for that yet. But, yeah, I mean, it is what it is. He won last night, and more power to him.
Yeah, it's something also for me that I spoke about earlier with Poirier and Johnson. Of course, I'm a Joe Warren fan, so my guy won in this instance. But not having Joe Warren in Bellator, it makes Bellator less exciting. Now, that doesn't mean that Bellator is not exciting, but Joe Warren has been with that promotion for so long, and just whether you like him or hate him, his goofy baddest man on the planet bit is just funny, and then when he wins, he's like a big kid. I love watching him fight. I love hearing him talk. So I'm just going to say that I'm happy that he did get the win. If he does decide to retire, good for him, retire on a win. But I don't know who they give him in his next fight, because I don't think they're going to give him someone like Galval, who just lost to Dantes for the title. But they could do that, but they might just give him a guy that they know that he can beat. Serwan Kakai was kind of one of those guys, really, that I think that his wrestling was going to be able to defeat at some point. But Kakai gave a good fight, so we'll see. That's my pretty much my take on Joe Warren and where he goes from here.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. So let's go ahead and move on, Mike. Let's go back a week ago to UFC 203, and of course Miocic versus Overeem.
I thought it was a fantastic fight. I mean, just the quick overview, if you guys didn't see it, Stipe Miocic, pounded out Alistair Overeem at the end of round one after getting knocked down and almost choked out early. But both guys threw and landed monster punches between those two moments. It was a great heavyweight fight. Something that I thought was great was that both guys had great chins. Alistair, of course, well, I shouldn't say great chins, but they held up more than just one or two punches. Alistair, he got knocked out again, but he had his chance in this fight to get it done. But Miocic showed that he has a chin as well as not just his knockout power. So I like Miocic. I think something that makes me laugh too is every time I hear him talk, I think of Chuck Liddell. He's got that gravelly voice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just kind of a throwback to Chuck Liddell with the sprawl and brawl. He's gonna throw punches until you make him work. And kudos to Overeem for making it a fight. Maybe if he doesn't throw that kick and get taken down by Miocic and pounded out on the top, maybe it's a different fight, Jay.
Yeah.
But it's not what happened.
Well, Miocic, going back to Chuck Liddell, that analogy, he hits hard like Chuck Liddell too.
Yeah.
Miocic is one of the hardest hitting guys in the division. I mean, the guy's punches look hard on TV, so I can imagine being on the other end of that. So I don't really take away anything from Overeem with his chin anyway. I think his chin holds up. It's just that Miocic is just an animal. He's got that punching power that's just unlike the others in that division. Now, I would like to see Kane fight him, but honestly, outside of that, I think Miocic beats everybody.
Yeah, I agree. I think he beats Verdum again, even if Verdum tries to mix up a different type of game plan. Right now, it looks like, though, that Kane and Verdum may be fighting. It depends each other. It depends if Miocic is taking a break or not. But it looks like, according to Cain Velasquez on UFC Tonight, he's going to fight Miocic unless Miocic decides to take some time off, because Miocic has been fighting on a pretty fast schedule, and now he's finally got it. He got his first defense out of the way. So Kane and myself, and I'm sure probably you as well, Jay, can't fault him for taking some time off now that he's actually defended it. A lot of guys, they'll get the title, and then they'll take a break. Well, no, he's actually defended it, and now he's going to take a break. So that's kind of what's kind of hovering in the air. We don't quite know from there. But I will agree that I think Cain is the best shot at Miocic. And right now I'll pick Cain Velasquez, but it's not an easy pick for me because we don't know where Cain is right now. Cain's been fighting for almost 10 years now. He's had injuries. At some point, that it's not the years, it's the mileage that we talk about, but it could be the years and the mileage. Now, at some point, you see your favorite fighter break, and or one of the greats break, and we'll talk about that in this fight card with Uriah Faber. At least I will, and we'll see how Cain looks.
Yeah, I agree, Mike. Except I will say that I think Cain beats him. I think Cain is just faster and overall stronger. I think Cain is just. I think Cain's got it. He's got more tools in his arsenal, so to speak. He's well-rounded, and with Miocic, it seemed that he did get his bell rung against Overeem, and that right there, I know he didn't get knocked out, but who knows what happened when he got his bell rung there. Maybe he's taking time off because of that. Who knows? I don't know.
Yeah, he's just been on a whirlwind trip of fights, so kudos to him on that. And Alistair Overeem, we always talk about where these guys go from here. Alistair Overeem can go back and win 2 more fights and fight for the title again. That's how bad the division is that we always talk about. Yeah,
but you know what? I'm happy to have a guy like Miocic in there and as champion right now, because here's a guy that's not always injury prone, and here's a guy that's great for the sport. So to have him as champion is really great right now for the UFC and for that division especially. So I can't wait till Cain does come back and fight him, or they're able to fight, because no matter who wins, that's going to be a fantastic fight.
Yeah, I would say they're two of probably the most exciting people in the division. Because Miocic finishes people, he knocks people out. He's giving us what we want, and Cain for the most part does that as well. Whether it's on the feet or on on top of somebody with pounding them out or submitting them. So if we could get more, just a few more fighters like Miocic and Cain. Of course, the sad thing with Cain, like I said, is that he's been around a while now, and I'm not putting him out the pasture quite yet, but it's amazing that we don't have as many younger guys coming up. We got Derek Lewis, which is great, and some other guys that may be coming up after that. But so I'm excited now.
There always seems to be something wrong with Cain, so it kind of reminds me of Tito in a way. How Tito was back in the day, always injured. Except that he doesn't always make excuses like Tito does. That's the difference there with Cain. Now, Mike, do you want to move on from this fight? Because there's not really much.
We pretty much talked about everything that's happened. It was a quick fight.
Yeah, so let's move on. Next fight, Verdum versus Travis Brown. Man, this fight, Mike, it was an ugly fight. It was ugly between both of these guys. It's just not really much to write home about other than that spinning, flying kick that Verdum did right at the start and connected to Brown's face.
Yeah, that was some kind of.
It was out of a movie. It was out of a movie.
Yeah, it was out of a movie. It came out of nowhere for a guy who's a jiu-jitsu guy.
Yeah.
And that's what I like about Verdum is that he's stirred up a lot of his game, and he's not afraid to take chances. But Jay, you can do that because if he doesn't land or you get out of position on your back, he's so well-rounded and comfortable off his back. It's not going to probably bother him. So that's one thing he can do that. I don't think he should do that every time or anything. My guess is that's why he did that.
Yeah. But outside of that, there was really nothing to write home about.
Well, for them actual fighting, yeah, I agree. But this is the fight with the finger problem. What's going on with the finger and Gary Copeland and that whole thing of like should it have been stopped and stuff. Gary Copeland, the referee, like in the first round. Well, if you guys remember, Travis Brown just walks back and looks at his finger and talks to the ref and asks him to stop the fight or something. But it was from a punch that Verdum threw that Brown tried to block with his open hand. and evidently his finger popped out, his bone popped out, and they got it back in. But the fight should have stopped after that. That should have been it.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't stop a fight unless it's a cut that the ref is trying to have looked at or something. You can't call a fight off yourself and have it go on after that point. Because think about it. There's been guys in there that's had broken toes, broken legs. You know, the fight is stopped, you know. And what would happen if John Jones, when he broke his toe, the upside down toe, what would happen if he stopped the fight at that point and said, oh, no, I need to stop my toe? It would have been over. Yeah,
and by the way, if that would have happened, Chael Sonnen would have been the champ at 205.
That's hilarious.
Because it would have been stopped there. They would have went by rounds or something like that, or TKO or something like that. I remember reading about that, which was crazy. But what I wanted to say, though, is when it happened, I thought it was, going back to the Verdum fight, I thought maybe like there was something wrong with the glove. And when there's something wrong with the glove, like the tape is coming off, or, you know, some guy is grabbing at your glove and so your finger comes out of it, that he was saying, hey, stop, my finger's out of the glove. We've got to put it back in from, like, you know, just from regular wear and tear of the fight. But it wasn't. It ended up being a broken finger or something like that.
Yeah. It's one of those freak things that happen, but at the same time, the ref should know better. He should know better. That's his job, you know? So he dropped the ball there, but at the same time, the right guy still won the fight. And
like you said, lackluster fight. There's boos all night on that fight. Jay, why don't you give us your take on Verdum kicking Edmond Tarverdyan?
Yeah, well, Edmond's kind of a numbskull, okay?
Right.
He talks a lot and says a lot of stuff, but it's all talk, and I don't think that Verdum should have done what he did. You shouldn't kick somebody because he's just talking in the ring or whatever. It was weird, man. It was really weird. I was like, are they going to start fighting right here? Because they look like it. Yeah,
and I thought that was really made, you know, Verdum look even worse. I mean, he didn't look great in this fight, and then he kicks at Edmond Tarverdyan. I don't care what the guy says. You don't kick him. Now he's saying, he as in Verdum saying that he was testing his range with his kick because Tarverdyan is such a great kickboxer. I don't know if that's true. I'm going to doubt that. But Verdum just during this, even though the weigh-in when he was John at Travis Brown. Now this is their second fight, obviously, so they've had some history. But he was cussing at him in Portuguese. And during the weigh-in, and Brown says, why don't you speak effing English, like that, if you're gonna like talk smack to me, which I agree with. If you want to talk smack to somebody, talk smack so that they know what you're saying.
Yeah.
So to me, it all came bad for Verdum on this whole fight, from before the fight, during the fight, after the fight.
Why is Travis Brown with Edmond anyway?
Well, my guess is because he's with Ronda Rousey, and so he's just,
he's arguably like the worst coach in the UFC.
Well, yeah, you could hear it in that fight too. He just kind of was trying to be like, this is bull ass. You should beat this guy. You should go out there and beat him. It's like, telling you how to do it.
Yeah, if you get into the things he says to his fighters, it's ridiculous. But anyway, not much to say about this except for Verdum. I mean, I don't think he earns the next title shot based on this fight.
Oh yeah, I agree. He certainly thinks he does, because he did have a great run to the title, and beating Kane the way he did was a great run. But I don't think you get knocked out by somebody and then have a lackluster fight in your next fight, and then or your next bout, and then get the get the title shot again. Now, if he had defended the belt a couple of times, that's how I look at it a lot of times, Jay. If you've defended the belt like 3 or 4 times, which by the way has never happened at heavyweight, maybe you have a better chance. You're like Aldo getting a direct rematch against McGregor. If that would have happened, I couldn't have said too much about it, even though I would not have wanted to have Aldo have a direct rematch against McGregor. But it's just ridiculous. It's got to be Kane.
Yeah, and then to kick a coach afterwards, it doesn't show well at all on TV to the folks at home, and it didn't show well at all there because there was a lot of boos for that. So Verdum just needs to calm down, and he's going to have to wait his turn because I think Kane gets the next shot. So
let me say one last thing too, Jay, before I forget. This is the first fight where we didn't get the troll face from Verdum. Verdum said he retired the troll face. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, he makes that weird face where he's kind of looking around with his face, with his lips all looking weird. So is this the new post troll face? Was the troll face, was that the happy Verdum that people liked and got along with, and now he's now he's a different guy? I don't know if that has anything to do with it.
Well, I say if it does, bring the troll face back.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, let's go on to Mickey Gall. Mickey Gall's performance against CM Punk was awesome, to say the least.
Flawless.
It was a flawless performance by him. If he didn't make it out of that round, or if he would have made it out of that round, I should say, it would have been a 10-8 round for sure. CM Punk looked terrible, like I kind of thought he would. 2 years in mixed martial arts isn't enough, and this is further proof. CM Punk, for him to say that he's going to be back, I say no bueno. What about you, Mike?
Well, I don't know. I mean, if he's going to fight again, he needs to fight in a regional promotion, a smaller promotion. But I mean, really quick, I learned something from Ray Longo, striking coach for Chris Weidman, Matt Serra, that camp. I was listening to him on on another podcast, and he said something interesting, that usually you have to have 5 amateur fights and a winning record to go pro. Not Mickey Gall. CM Punk had none of that.
No,
he didn't have any amateur fights, let alone any wins at amateur fights, and they allowed him to go pro. Now, this is not Brock Lesnar, who had an actual like wrestling record, amateur wrestling, collegiate wrestling. So this is something that I think that is something odd that the Nevada Athletic Commission allowed to do. So I want to say, first of all, that's bad on them. But one last thing though for Mickey Gall. Excuse me, not Mickey Gall. We'll talk about Mickey Gall in a bit, I guess, because I like the guy. Maybe that's why I keep saying Gall. But CM Punk, look, man, you fought that choke really, really well. I'll give you that. A lot of the guys would have turtled up and just, tapped out. So some of the training like he got with Rufus Sports worked out, obviously, for his first real fight against a guy like Mickey Gall, who's really a killer at his for how early he's been fighting at a 2-0 record, now 3-0 record. And we'll see what happens with CM Punk, but I'm really excited to see what Mickey Gall does from here on out.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what happens with Gall. Not excited for CM Punk at all. This was, just like I said on the last podcast, this is a publicity stunt. This is to make money for the UFC. That's why CM Punk is here. And it's a failed experiment. I called you that night after the fights, and I told you, I said, is the experiment over with now?
Yeah. Because
it's not going to work out for him. He could fight a top 100 guy, and I don't think it's going to work out for him, It's just not in the cards for him. And like you said, I agree. Go fight some regional promotions, get your wins up, and then come back.
Yeah, it's interesting. You look at also, it's not just how he fought, but, well, I guess it is technically how he fought. What did he do, Jay? He ran in there, and instead of trying to establish a jab or feint or kind of figure things out, he just ran in there like crazy, and Gall just dropped down. It was very reminiscent to me of Randy Couture's first fight, where this big guy, I forget his name, Tony Holm, I think, just this big guy runs at Randy Couture. Randy Couture just bends down, picks him up, takes him down, and submits him. And that's just exactly what happens here. I would have liked to have seen CM Punk, throwing a couple of punches, see what it looked like on his feet. What would have happened there? But we didn't get that. We just got, like he said, a failed experiment that failed even miserably because he didn't even start out like most fighters do, which is just going, touching gloves and, testing distance and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it reminded me of the time when I was 12 years old and I ran up to my brother, who was at the time a very good wrestler in high school, and he basically did the double leg and dropped me down on my ass, and that was it,
Yeah, exactly.
So it's one of those things where it's crazy, Mike. I don't think he should be back, but I think they'll let him back. I really do, because he's a draw. Many people watch this pay-per-view around the world because of CM Punk.
Yeah, I've looked at some of the stories that have come out since, and there's some stories that say that it made good chunk of money based off of if he wasn't on the fight, how many people said they were watching it for CM Punk. But then the other numbers came out, which were, it wasn't as much as they hoped it was going to be. So it comes down to, it rose the bottom line, but did it rise did it go above where you wanted in what your projections were? So I'm not sure.
Yeah. Well, we've got a new, new ownership in the UFC, so who knows what they'll do next with CM Punk.
Well, they should just put him up there with James Toney
in
that thing, and just put that up there as failed experiments, and just go with that.
Yeah, that was pretty. What was worse, James Toney or CM Punk's debut?
James Toney.
And
I'll tell you why.
I agree.
Because James Toney actually knows how to fight. Like, actually, has been a boxer, even though he was in his 40s at that point. And he got taken down by, Randy Couture, Hall of Famer. He got taken down by an ankle pick.
Yeah.
An ankle pick. How often have you heard ankle pick in MMA? But I hadn't heard it at that point at all. It's a wrestling term. Couture went in there and just dove low for his ankle and flipped him on his butt and got up top, punched him around, and then submitted him. So to me, that's worse.
Yeah. I can agree with that. But CM Punk is right up there, though. Right up there. Let's go ahead and move on, Mike. Rivera versus Faber. Of course, you want to talk about this fight, so go ahead and start.
Yeah, first of all, it was a real boring fight. I don't know if Rivera couldn't put him away because, he was in awe of Uriah Faber. I know he said that he's been watching Uriah Faber forever. Of course, Uriah Faber's 37 years old. He's been one of the best in the business for forever. But he couldn't put Faber away. Did Faber break his hand? I don't know. It's possible. Once Joe did bring that up, I did notice he wasn't throwing the right very often. But it comes down to Rivera should have finished Faber, and Faber got his first 2 losses in a row. Look, man, it's a big deal for Uriah Faber to lose 2 in a row, even though it was against a guy who many of us knew. But I think if Uriah Faber doesn't retire here, and I only bring up retirement because he is 37 years old, we're not sure what's going to happen here, but by losing to Rivera, that means he's no longer a contender in my eyes. But if he does want to fight, I'm welcome to see him back at featherweight at 145, not 135, so he doesn't have to worry about the cut as much. And do I think he should fight killers at 145 like he's been talking about before? No, I don't think he should fight killers at 145. I think he should fight guys at the bottom of the top 10 or unranked guys at 145. Go out. It's now Uriah Faber's, his retirement tour. Matt Hughes had it. Chuck Liddell didn't have it, but Matt Hughes certainly had it. Where you're going to fight guys that are respectable guys, that guys you should beat, and you do that until you lose, and I think that's where he's going to be at now.
Yeah, I agree. Faber's been one of those guys that I've respected and looked up to for quite some time now in mixed martial arts. One of the guys who really got me back into the sport, actually, when he was with the
WEC?
WEC, yes, exactly. Thank you, Mike. I'm glad that Faber's at least doing something else where he's desperately needed in the sport, which is he's got his own gym. Yeah. And he's a great mentor for other fighters coming up. That's one thing I can say about Faber. When you watched his the Tough show that he was on, he was a fantastic coach. Mm-hmm. And I could see him. He'll be fine after fighting. That's for sure.
And I think he was coaching bigger guys too, if I remember right, the light heavyweights or something like that. You look at guys that have come through his gym. That now look, TJ Dillashaw may not be with him anymore, but most of his career was being mentored by Uriah Faber. Yeah. Cody Garbrandt now, that guy's a killer. He could be the future champ. He's gone through with Uriah Faber. So yeah, that, and also so many business decisions this guy has made. This guy, I think something that, in my opinion, that's kind of hampered his career a little bit. Now that sounds odd, I know, being a past champ and being a top 10, top 5 guy for his whole UFC stint, basically, is that he never really worries about losing. It's never been a big deal to him. It's like, if I lose, I give it my best, and I got other stuff that I'm working on. And I'll never forget that. He wakes up and he looks at his wall, and on his wall is all this stuff he's working on. The Form label that was out 10 years ago, which I loved. He created Form, stole it to K-Swiss, and K-Swiss sadly just got rid of it. And if you guys have seen my pictures on Facebook, I wear a lot of Torque shirts. He created Torque. He owns half of Torque. and sold the other half to I'm not sure who, but various parties. So he's got his toe in every different part of the water.
Yep.
So he's gonna be okay for sure.
Yeah, and one person you left out on that list that he's mentored is Joseph Benavidez, another good fighter.
Sure.
So there's lots of guys in this camp that are just Paige Van Zandt.
Yeah, Chad Mendez.
The list goes on and on. So he's doing something where he's much needed in the sport. It's sad. It's a little bittersweet to see him on that losing end, though, and starting to drift away. Like it was for you with Matt Hughes and some of these other guys. But hey, he's always going to be around the sport.
Oh, for sure, and always going to be much loved by the fans, no matter where he walks out.
Yeah. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to Andrade versus Calderwood, Mike. This fight, man, I'm not laughing. I'm actually sad. Calderwood lost this fight and lost it bad, and I was really hoping she would win because I like her as a fighter, but Andrade just had her number.
Yeah, I echo those sentiments with your kind of laughing, kind of shaking your head laughing is what I'm doing. Jessica Andrade submits Joanne Calderwood by rear naked choke late in round one. Look, Andrade just put the pressure on Calderwood the whole time. That's, I guess, how you're going to beat Calderwood. Calderwood's still a great fighter, but maybe she's not as good as we thought she was.
No.
Still a great fighter, though. Andrade now is 2-2 since moving to 115. She had, her record at 135. Wasn't horrible. It wasn't great either. It was like, I don't know. It's off the top of my head. It's like 14, like maybe like 10-3 or 14, and she had losses, and she was trading wins and losses. I'll just say that.
Yeah.
But now she's got 2 in a row at 115, and man, does she look good.
Yeah, she looked really good. She's got to win a few to be able to even be talked about for a title shot or anything. So
she beats a name, in Calderwood. Maybe she fights Van Zandt now. They both had wins now within a month of each other. Van Zandt's a name. She gets past Van Zandt. Maybe she fights for the title after that, or fights one more time. I don't know, but 2 fights right now in the strawweight division, which is just probably the better division for the women's divisions. I'm not saying that the 135 division is garbage at all, but it's a tough division.
Isn't that great to have 2 solid women's divisions though? It's solid. Sure. It's cool. It's great to have. I remember years ago when they were thinking about bringing in the women, we were kind of like, okay, it'd be great to see this one and that one, but do we really need a whole division? I mean, there's not going to be that many good, that much good talent out there. But boy, was I wrong. Well, yeah,
it's one of those things too. I think that once we always had sleepers, I'm sure, ladies we didn't know about or we hadn't heard. We knew about Rousey and Tate and Marlos Kunin, even some of the other people that kind of like they got started early, didn't get their shine. That who knows if they're going to fight again or not. But now you got people who have been training now in big gyms, and that's all we have. What we have.
Yeah. All right, Mike. Let's go ahead and move on to news.
News Corner.
Why don't you give us some news, Mike?
This may be the shortest news cycle we have. Not much happened, but there is some stuff to talk about. Kind of feel-good story. Miesha Tate, hiking hero. She was hiking out on a couple of mountains and everything, and I forget where, outside of Las Vegas, I believe. But she came across a family with a little girl that had a broken arm, and she picked her up. I'm going to take her down there for walk her 2 miles to the bottom. Mom and Dad were cool with that. The little girl was stoked about it, and I thought it was a cool story.
Yeah, I thought it was too. I just hope that next time I twist my ankle or something when I'm hiking, that Miesha Tate is there to pick me up and walk me down the mountain. So
don't worry, man. I'll make sure that Brian Caraway takes care of that for you. I know you're a big fan of Brian Caraway.
Let's just hope he's not there, or my wife. Anyway, let's go ahead and move on to the next story. What else you got?
Yeah, for the WSOF, we now have John Fitch defending against Jake Shields at WSOF actually 34 on November 12th. It's going to be the same day as UFC 205, the first in New York. So look, you've got Jay. I know you have some stuff to say about this fight. I'll just say that two of the best guys to ever walk into the cage, but also two of the most boring guys to ever walk into the cage. So for me, it's going to see these two titans fight. Hopefully, it won't be boring, but just to sweeten the pot, Jay, something I just found out was that Yushin Okami will be on the card as well.
Wow.
So yeah, Jay, what do you think about that? Who do you think is going to win? First of all, I think John Fitch is going to win, but what do you think?
It's whoever can lay on the other longer. That's who's going to win. I seriously, I think Jake Shields is going to win.
Yeah, he actually better chance of finishing the fight. So I might have to change that when it comes to closer to the picking the times. So
I think he's the bigger guy too.
Yeah, he did fight at 185.
Yeah, he's a bigger guy
in Strikeforce, right?
Yeah, he's a bigger guy, and they're both great at ground game and laying on people. So I'm going with Jake Shields there for sure.
But I think John Fitch is better at laying on guys.
This conversation's getting weird.
That's why it's tough for me.
This conversation's getting weird. Let's go ahead and move on to the next story.
I did not mean to throw that innuendo out there, but yeah, maybe we should. And they're boring anyway. So Douglas Lima is going to rematch Andrei Kreshkov at Bellator 164. It's going to be in Italy, which is pretty exciting. This is the third time that Bellator has gone international, and so good for them. Look, Lima just won beat Paul Daly in his last fight. So, that was a good feather in his cap in his first fight back after losing to Koreshkov. Now, Lima did have that hurt knee when he fought Koreshkov, but Koreshkov just came off beating Benson Henderson. So, this is going to be a good fight, Jay. I'm excited. I don't know who to pick here.
Koreshkov is – yeah, but Koreshkov, man, that guy looked like – oh, my gosh. That guy's tough as nails. I don't see Lima beating him.
He's a real deal for sure.
Oh, he is. I said when he beat Benson, that guy should be in the UFC. That guy's got
those guys.
That guy is a destroyer. He's not a beast. He's a destroyer. He's above beast. He's just that guy's hands are just amazing. Not saying he can't be beat, but I'm just saying in Bellator, I don't think he can be beat.
Yeah, I don't think there's anybody that really has the skill set or the size. Like they might have like a skill set that's good, but the size is not there.
Yeah, he's a big dude.
It's one of those things. I mean, the guy hasn't lost since he lost to Ben Askren, who was the champ then. So that pretty much tells you something right there. So.
Yeah, and Ben Askren is a freak of nature.
Yeah, I really bothers me that Bellator let him go. I wish the UFC would pick him up. I wish he wasn't languishing over in Asia and in one championship.
Yeah, he's wasting his time.
Gotta go where you get paid, man.
Yeah, he's wasting his time though. He's never gonna have that legacy he could have had.
Yep.
But let's go ahead. Let's go on to the next story, Mike.
Yeah, so Shane Carwin is now a free agent. I'm really pumped about that. Look, Shane Carwin now is 41, 42 years old, but he's a heavyweight still. Hasn't fought in 5 years. If you guys are really new to the sport, you guys might not know Shane Carwin, but he was actually the interim heavyweight champ and fought Brock Lesnar to unify it. Almost beat Brock Lesnar. Some say he did beat Brock Lesnar, but his MO is heavy hands, tough guy. Man, that fight, Jay, against Junior Dos Santos, his face was so messed up, Carwin, but he stuck in there all 3 rounds. Or it might have been 5 rounds at that point, but I think it was 3 rounds. So the guy has the power to knock you out. He's got the toughness. I don't think he's ever been finished either. So
no, I think he was finished. Wasn't he finished by Brock?
Oh, sorry. Yeah. He was finished by the the comeback, the arm triangle.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Yeah. Maybe he wasn't been knocked out or something, or maybe I'm just wrong altogether. But I'm happy that Carwin is back. And but where is he going? Is it going to be WSOF? Is it going to be Bellator?
Yeah.
I'm hoping it's either one, but I don't know. What do you think?
But Carwin's always been a guy that's been plagued by injuries. His back has always been messed up, and and he's 42. You said
he's 41, 42, something like that.
Yeah, I like the guy. Just can't get that excited over him.
I quickly went to Wikipedia. He's never been knocked out, but he finished everybody when he went 12-0, and then lost to Brock Lesnar by that arm triangle, and then lost to Dos Santos in that 3-round by decision. So when you go 12-0 and you knock out Frank Mir, Gabriel Gonzaga, and you go basically 5-0 in your first 5 fights in the UFC and then lose to Brock Lesnar and Junior Dos Santos, it shows you should still be around, I think. But yeah, I don't know if he goes to Bellator. I think it's a really good shot, depending on who he fights first and how he looks in his first fight. I mean, fighting some guy like Matt Mitrione, I think he beats Czech Congo the way Czech Congo's fighting. But and there's some other guys there as well, of course. I'm leaving out, but
probably.
If he goes to WSOF, they don't really have any big time heavyweights there right now either. Some kind of up and coming guys maybe, but and their champ's not bad. I think it's Minikov, but he's pretty good. But either where he goes, it's going to help whatever promotion that is. Yeah, for sure.
I agree. Even if it was the UFC, it would help out with that thin division. So I agree with that.
They both decided that it was in their best interest to not go back to the UFC, both the UFC and Shane Carwin. So
yeah. All right. So what else you got for us, Mike?
This got Rockhold versus Jacare 2. That's going to be at Fight Night 101 on November 26th. Of course, they fought already in Strikeforce. I don't know if that was 5 years ago, how long ago it was, but they did fight. Rockhold got the decision, but both guys, man, really are different guys. Jacare's got a lot better in the striking. He was just more of a jiu-jitsu guy back then, and Rockhold he was still a well-rounded guy back then. Now he's just a killer. Don't let the Bisping fight fool you. He's still a killer. So yeah, Jay, what were your thoughts on that?
Until we get closer, I'm really not going to make a pick right now, but I will say it's a great fight. I saw the fight. It was roughly about 5 years ago, and it was a great fight, but it's a different story now. I agree with you all around. Jacare is just a different fighter.
Yeah, I think Jacare should have got the title shot like we were talking about earlier in the show, but for sure if he gets past Rockhold, there's no way he can be denied that now, in my opinion. This is a tough fight for Rockhold coming off a loss, Jay. I know Rockhold's one of your guys, and to you guys out there, Rockhold, to me, if you made his hair darker, he's the exact representation of who I think Batman looks like without the cape and cowl. So anyway, nerds out there, that's all I have to say about that. Now back to the sport, though. He loses 2 in a row, Jay. Even though he loses to Michael Bisping and Jacare, that's going to be rough. What do you think happens if he does lose to Jacare? Because there's a good chance he will. Yeah,
there's a very good chance he will. Jacare is one of the other guys I really like in that division, so it wouldn't hurt me at all. But if he loses 2 in a row, Mike, I think that Rockhold, man, he goes down a lot. His stock goes down a lot if he loses 2 in a row. People are going to start questioning him.
Well, I think his stock goes down, but I don't know if I go as far as how you're thinking, because look, as much as I like Michael Bisping is following his career since Tough and all that stuff like that, I still think he pretty much kind of got lucky, or not lucky, but I think Rockhold, he didn't throw the fight, but he wasn't up for the fight, and he's learned that now, I guess, as a professional, that you have to go in and really fight the fight the whole way through. But losing to Jacare is not too bad, but he'll certainly have to get 2 or 3 more fights to get another title shot. But that's not the end of the world. But what was the end of the world for Kenny Florian, sadly, was his brother Kirk was found dead a couple days ago. He was not on UFC. Kenny Florian was not on UFC tonight on this Wednesday's episode because of that. My prayers go out to him. Jay, what do you think about that, man? I don't have a brother growing up. You've had a couple, more than a couple, actually.
Yeah, I've got 3 brothers. That's a sad situation. Especially, I heard that he was really close with his brother, and
his brother's only 33, I believe.
Yeah, and he was so young. So, did they find out anything on his brother's death? Was it foul play?
Nothing yet. Still no. Nothing.
Well, when we hear something, we will. You will put it up on the website, I'm sure.
Yeah, for sure.
If we do hear, but man, my thoughts go out to his family.
Yeah, and basically the last thing we have. Well, actually not the last thing, but second to last thing, but still pretty big. If you watched Bellator 2 nights ago, then you already know this. But Chael Sonnen signs with Bellator. That is huge to me. I realize that Chael Sonnen is more mouth sometimes than action in the cage, but this is the type of fighter I want in Bellator. I don't want guys that are at the top of their game. I want them in the UFC, but I want guys I know, guys that still have something to give, guys that are characters. This guy's a perfect signee for Bellator, and I'm excited.
And a guy that's never lost a round. Never lost a round, guys.
He's beaten every promotion's champion.
Yep. He's amazing. So I'm glad he's with Bellator. I'm glad he's back just because I like him as I like him as a fighter, don't get me wrong, but I like his mouth. I think he has a certain quality to his trolling, if you will, in the cage that or at interviews where McGregor comes off as sort of an ass, for lack of the better word. Chael Sonnen is like honestly funny with some of the stuff he says. McGregor at times is funny, but most of the time, come on, we both get kind of annoyed with some of the stuff he does.
Well, for me, when McGregor talks, I believe he means that, whether he does or not.
Yes.
When Chael Sonnen says it, I know it's part of the shtick.
Exactly.
And there's some things he does say that he maybe believes, but because most of it is shtick, he gets away with it.
Exactly. The whole I caught him feeding a carrot to a bus and everything. Stuff like that just never gets old to me. Yeah. It's hilarious. The stuff he does in interviews and stuff is just funny. And so I'm glad to see him back. But he's a good fighter, don't get me wrong.
Yeah, he wants to fight he'll fight wherever they want him to fight. He's already called out Tito Ortiz. Tito Ortiz said that'd be the best fight for him to retire on because he'll destroy Chael Sonnen. My thing with Tito Ortiz is, how long has Tito Ortiz been with Bellator now?
At least 2 years, 3 years, maybe.
I don't know. I'm gonna look it up, but I'll tell you this:
it's got to be at least 2.
I couldn't name more than one fight Ortiz has had in the division off the top of my head when I was thinking about it, and that was against Shlemenko on their one pay-per-view. But he did lose to Liam McGeary in his last fight. He has 3 fights in Bellator, and how does Tito Ortiz not have more fights in Bellator? And now he's going to retire off fighting Chael Sonnen. Oh, and by the way, Tito Ortiz in fighting in Bellator, his fights have been against Stephan Bonner. Stephan Bonner was the other one. So his last two of his last 4 fights of his career in Bellator would be against
3 years.
Yeah, it would be against two UFC alums.
3 years, Mike. He's been in it 3 years.
Yeah, it's beyond me, man. So Tito, stop talking. Just retire already. But you know what? If
he does fight Chael, that'll be a fun fight. I'm not going to deny. So, but it's sort of one of those things where it's getting into Khabib territory, Nurmagomedov. Put your money where your mouth is.
Yep. I think that you talked about how Faber he's able to move on after the sport with coaching and things, and I added on the business endeavors and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Ortiz has that. I realize he has. I think that's why he's holding on to the sport so long. I realize that he has punishment athletics, but I don't think that does a lot of money. So I think once he's out of Bellator, he's not going to fall on hard times. Yeah. Don't get me wrong, but I think that's one of the reasons why he's still with the sport is that it's going to be just tough for him to let go.
Yeah, I agree. What else you got, Mike?
The final thing, and this may take some time to talk about, and that is a UFC 205 fight card has pretty much been released. And we now have, listen to this lineup, people: Cowboy Cerrone versus Kelvin Gastelum, Chris Weidman versus Yoel Soldier of God Romero, Frankie Edgar versus Jeremy Stevens, and yes, Tyron Woodley, you are going to fight Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. All 4 of those fights are going to be at UFC 205, along with the Rashad Evans and Tim Kennedy fight that we already discussed either our last podcast or before that. Those 4 fights are some really good fights. Super bummed, as I know you are, Jay, that Cowboy couldn't fight Lawler. But look, Lawler pulled out pretty smartly for this fight, don't you think?
Yeah. They say when you get your bell rung and you're concussed, you should be out for at least 8 months to a year. That's what the professionals say. So makes a lot of sense for him to stay out because it's only, I think, 3 or 4 months since he got knocked out.
It would have been like 3 or 4 months, and that was the first fight. Sadly, I think that you and I talked about when Cowboy moved to 170. How it would look if he fought certain guys. And then we talked about him fighting Lawler. That would have been great. So we almost had it, but look, Kelvin Gastelum, he's not technically on a roll. He's lost a couple of splits, but he's basically on a roll. I mean, he's looking great, whether he's lost those splits or not. So Cowboy versus Gastelum is a good fight for both those guys where they're at in their career, I think.
Well, Gastelum is a tough, well-rounded guy, Mike, so it's going to be kind of hard for Cowboy for sure. It's a good test for him, but, man, the way Cowboy's looked, I'm not that worried. As far as Weidman Romero, though, man, like, they really dropped the ball there. I think they should have went with Jacare.
Really? Well, I actually agree with you because we've already seen the fight already, with Rockhold and Jacare, even though it was a while ago. But I guess what they're doing here is that they're showing that they do believe that Jacare really won that fight by giving him. Well, actually, no. Rockhold just lost too, and so did Weidman. So I guess it is kind of a pick 'em. So, but either way, Romero, if he doesn't land punches early, I think Weidman's gonna probably pound him out. But it's a 3-round fight, so it may go to a decision. But I think Romero has the best chance standing. After that, I think it's Weidman, even though Romero is a great great grappler.
Yeah, I mean, but honestly, the fight I'm looking forward to, man, there's so many to look forward to in this card, but I think most of all, I'm looking forward to Wonder Boy against Woodley. I really am. I think Woodley, it was his chance it's his chance to shine here, but he should have already been fighting for this belt, and now it's going to happen. And I say he beats Woodley.
He's coming in, I believe, last time I looked earlier today, as the favorite -150.
Wow.
Now that could change, obviously. Now I agree with you.
Yeah.
I think he beats Wonder Boy. But excuse me, I think he beats Woodley.
Yeah.
But it's just gonna be tough to see what happens there. And the reason I say that I think he beats Woodley, just real quick, since we're not really should be making picks right now, or making just introductory picks, is just the movement. If Woodley can catch him, like kind of like like Mike Tyson's Punch Out back in the day, if you use that game, you're waiting for someone to make a certain like eye twitch or move of the hand, so they're going to come in with a certain move. If he can do that and just land on Wonder Boy, then he can certainly finish him. But other than that, I think Wonder Boy is probably going to have his way with him.
Yeah,
it
it's
might
the
be
movement.
a decision, but I don't know.
It's the movement. That's why I'm going with Wonder Boy too. All right. Well, I guess that's all you have for news, huh?
Well, this just real quick. We skipped over Edgar Stevens. That's just a fun fight. I think Edgar wins that fight. Just both guys, great strikers. Edgar may use his wrestling to get the W, but I don't think he knocks out Stevens, and I don't think Stevens knocks him out. So I'm picking Edgar probably by decision.
All right. Let's go ahead and get into some picks, Mike.
We pick 'em.
UFC Fight Night 95. We have Cyborg versus Landsberg. I think this is a no-brainer. I'm going Cyborg.
Yeah, Lena, the elbow Princess Landsberg, looked her up, guys, because I didn't know her. Landsberg is 6-1 with 4 KO TKOs and making her UFC debut. And guys, this is another catch weight of 140. So this is the second catch weight of 140 for Cyborg. Just get down to 135 or stay in Invicta at 145. That's how I look at it, Jay. But just quickly, I do believe that Cyborg will probably knock out Landsberg.
Yeah. We don't even need to look up Landsberg at this point. When it says Cyborg's fighting somebody you never heard of, just you might as well pick Cyborg.
It's a squash match for sure.
Yeah. So bet on Cyborg. Safe bet.
Big fight coming up here, Jay. Big only because it's Big Country versus Bigfoot. Big Country has one of the best chins in the business. Bigfoot doesn't. Do the math. That's how I look at this fight.
Yeah, that's very smart. I think so too. Big Country wins knockout.
But these guys are just really just names now. They're not going anywhere.
These guys are just. This is almost a freak show. Honestly, it's not even like. I mean, these guys were like decent at one time, but they weren't great. It is what it is.
Like if you look, I like how you said freak show, because if you look at like Bigfoot's head. I know he's got gigantism. It's not his fault. But you look at like his head, his weird, the way he looks kind of weird. And then you look at Bigfoot, which, you know, look, I'm a fat guy. I'm a big guy. But he walks in, he's all fat with his giant beard and long mullet hair. It is a freak show, man.
Yeah,
it is.
yeah.
It's completely a freak show. But I will go Big Country for sure. And I think he finishes him with a knockout. Renan Barão versus Philippe Nover. Guys, if you don't remember Philippe Nover, he's 11-6 and 11-6 and 1 draw, 5 submissions, 1 KO, TKO. If you remember, I remember him as a tough 8 runner-up, and then he kind of like went away. I guess because he lost the last couple of fights in the UFC after he had lost in the finale. Well, now he's back. He's 1-1 in the UFC. So the UFC decided to bring him back for whatever reason. But he's 1-1 in the UFC in this second stint. Barão had just lost the decision to Stevens in a pretty good fight, but I really just have this on the docket to talk about, Jay, because Barão is a former champ and really held the title just 2 fights ago.
Yeah, I think this could be his comeback win for sure, because I think he beats Nover hands down. Nover's one of those guys who's lost so many in the UFC and has been kicked out several times, and I'm surprised he's back.
Yeah, so we'll see what goes on with that. But if Barão loses to Nover, maybe now Barão is kind of getting close to the end there. Because remember, it's the mileage, not the years on him as well. Something I'm excited about now is the next final fight on the main card. Paul Felder versus Francisco Trinaldo. I'm just going to throw Felder's numbers out there in case you guys aren't too familiar, but you should be. Felder's 12-2 with 7 KO, TKOs, and 1 submission. Also never been finished. Jay, I started not to write Felder off, but I was going to start not really writing about him and bringing him up in our talks because of his 2-fight win streak. But you know what? He turned it around. He's now on a 2-fight win streak from losing 2 fights in a row. And so he's back on the win streak, which is great. But he's fighting Trinaldo, who's 20-4 with 6 KO, TKOs, and 5 submissions. Trinaldo's a very good, well-rounded guy, but he's never beat anybody really big. But he's also never been knocked out. And what does Felder do? He knocks people out. So it's going to be a really good fight.
Yeah, and Felder's one of those guys who doesn't really show many looks in the cage. He's just a stand-up fighter, you know. Yeah. He stands and bangs, and somebody's going to get KO'd here, I think.
Yeah, I think that I'm not sure. By the way, I'm going to go before I forget. I'm going to pick Barão in the last fight. I'm not sure if we did make a pick on that. I'm going to pick Barão by decision. I'm going to pick Felder. I think, with what you said, I think Felder maybe does. This is his chance to knock out a guy who's never been knocked out. Because even though Trinaldo's on a 6-fight win streak, he hasn't fought a lot of great guys. Felder has, and he's knocked out a lot of good guys as well. So.
Yeah, Trinaldo has a real good shot here. Man, this is a tough one. I'm going to go Trinaldo, just because he's more well-rounded. So going Trinaldo. I don't know. Yeah. It could be by decision.
Yeah, I would think that if he's able to get it to the ground, he might be able to have put Felder in some serious problems because the 5 submissions, the guy's legit. Moving on, that'll be this Saturday. That's UFC Fight 95 we just talked about, and then the Saturday after that on October 1st, UFC Fight Night 96. Just a couple of fights really of note to talk about on that. John Dodson versus John Lineker. That should be pretty darn good fight. And also Will Brooks making his second UFC fight against Alex Oliveira.
Great fight.
Dodson and Lineker, man, speed versus power.
Yeah, great fight. We saw what happens with speed versus power, though, when Dodson fought Mighty Mouse. So it could go his way.
Yeah, I'm thinking that Dodson is probably going to get this fight. I'm picking him with the speed, even though, of course, Dodson has great power as well. But I was thinking Lineker more with the power. But the speed just can't stand up to Dodson. But I won't be surprised if Lineker gets the knockout. Don't get me wrong, folks. But I'm going with Dodson here, especially when he's got like 9 KO TKOs and he's never been finished. Yeah. So, who do you think is going to win that fight, Jay? You thought
Dodson?
Lineker?
No, Dodson. I'm going with Dodson by decision.
Yeah, and that'll be a 5-rounder. Does that make a difference?
Yeah, it's no, it's decision.
Yeah.
I
And
think
then Will Brooks versus Alex Oliveira. I think this is we talked about this when it was originally announced. I still believe that this is a kind of a step back in competition for Will Brooks. I'm not trying to say that the former Bellator champ. I think after stepping in and fighting Ross Pearson, that's who it was. Sorry, guys. Beating Ross Pearson by decision on short notice to get Alex Oliveira, who was a solid fighter. If you guys remember, he's the one that fought Cowboy in Cowboy's first 170 fight, welterweight fight, I should say. I don't know. I just think that Oliveira is not at the level of Brooks, but Oliveira is certainly not a horrible fighter. He's 15-3-1. Got a no contest in there, but he's got 9 TKOs and 3 submissions, and also has never been KO'd. So, I'm still going Will Brooks here on a full camp. I think Will Brooks will take him down, and if he can survive a triangle off his back, I think Will Brooks gets his decision.
Yeah. I'm going to go with Brooks, of course. I think Brooks finishes this fight. I don't know if it's going to be a sub or ground and pound, KO, something. But he's going to definitely finish Oliveira.
So that's pretty much it for the show. With all we got the pick'ems down, we got the news, everything going down. So, guys, you want to keep up with us between shows, between the 2 weeks. I'm still doing Facebook every day, bringing up a lot of the stuff that we talk about, all the news that goes between the shows. Please go to the Facebook and take a look at that.
Yeah, and you can follow us on Twitter at MMA Think Tank PC or email us at MMAThinkTank@gmail.com. Also, phone us, guys. We're at 925-237-1296. You can just call in and leave a message. Tell us about what you think about these fights we've talked about or the upcoming fights coming up. We'd love to hear from you, and you might be on the show.
Exactly.
Or better yet, leave a review for us on iTunes. That would be awesome. So anyway, guys, that's it from us this week, and we will catch you in another 2.
Have a great night, guys.
We go.